Welcome to the 5 o'clock show. It's time for Common Sense. Now, it's Cats and Cosby with John Catsimatidis and Rita Cosby, standing for truth, justice, and the American way, bringing common sense to the world. Now, here's John Catsimatidis and Rita Cosby.
Well, tonight's the night everybody's been waiting for, and we're going to see what he says. It's only we're only 4 hours away from it.
And, you know, Caroline Leavitt, John, the White House press secretary, it was her first time back since pregnancy, and she said he's going to reveal some things, she says, that will, quote, shock the world. She said he's going to talk about election integrity, he's going to talk about Iran, he's going to talk about the economy. So all eyes are going to be, we'll see.
Is he going to talk about the aliens from Mars?
Maybe.
That was my first thought, John.
When he says shock the world, that was my first thought.
The stratosphere, right? Is he going into the stratosphere? But she claims it's going to be a biggie, and she didn't really tip off too much more than that, no matter how many ways the reporters were trying to grill her. One thing, did you see this, John? I can't believe this. The teleprompter operator, this is a first. This teleprompter operator he scrolls the president's speeches, he or she. We don't know if it's a he or she, but the person who scrolls the speeches for the president, or if you host a TV show, you have the prompter and you have the words.
You have to load it into the machine.
Yeah, and you know what the president says because you're doing it, they're reading the words off the. So now it turns out there was a report, it was an ABC television report that came out that said this teleprompter operator was betting on the betting site Kalshi and made $100,000 predicting, I think I know what President Trump is going to say tonight, not saying, of course, that they were the teleprompter operator. Somehow they'd have a little inside scoop, John. What do you think of that one?
Do they still have treason? Do they shoot people?
Firing squad, like in Utah, right? What do you think, Vito Fasella?
I don't even know what I'm going to say tonight.
So in the studio with us, we have Judge Richard Weinberg. We have the borough president of the great state of Staten Island, Vito Fasella, and the former governor, could have been the senator if he would have appointed himself, Governor David Paterson.
And should have, anyway.
And should have appointed himself senator.
Exactly. And you had a big meeting. By the way, Governor Patterson, we talked about it. You called into the show yesterday with the big breaking news. So fill us in exclusively about the meeting today with it was a whole bunch of other Democrats.
We had the meeting, it started about 9 o'clock in the morning. We got a great turnout. Tony Burgos, who has been a big Democratic supporter all the way back to Governor Cuomo, and I'm talking about Mario Cuomo. That's how long he's done it. Tom Acosta, who's been a big Democratic operative going back to the 60s, actually knew Robert F. Kennedy. And we were able to, I think, successfully able to get the conversation such that every other word wasn't some problem that someone had with Trump or something the administration did or something like that. If you really want to try to make changes, then you've got to change your conduct. And I think what happened in the Senate yesterday, in the House yesterday, is not where the party should be. Where it should be is looking at the affordability problems that all Americans are having, the issues of poor housing, the unemployment rate, and the dangers that may come from the big, beautiful bill, because it is going to do a number on Medicaid that I don't think anyone has been able to.
You mean we should proceed on fraud?
The bill does address the issue of Medicaid fraud, but what it also does is it knocks a lot of people off Medicaid who were not committing fraud.
So, Governor, let me ask you the 64 million or trillion, I guess, now under Mondani in New York, the question here, because the big issue, and we were talking about this yesterday when the news broke about Israel, there were 103 Democrats that voted against funding for Israel. That was shocking to me. And today I was watching a lot of the Democratic Socialists, and one of them, Cesar, who's the progressive chair, by the way, sort of leads that group, said this is a sea change. This is a moment, and we will never go back. And AOC said the same thing. So, I mean, how do you change that dynamic when all they're talking about is anti-Israel, getting rid of the Senate, getting rid of prisons, getting rid of this? They seem like they took that as a victory yesterday.
They took it as a victory because it's a big story, and all of them got included in it. I thought it was an absolute, it's such an injustice to a country who I'm trying to figure out what they did in Israel to attract this much anger and the antagonism that so many House members feel, and it's coming from everywhere. And it was good to see today that in an interview, the Queen's Congressman Gregory Meeks spoke very well on this particular point. And those who want to take that type of action may find themselves out of office soon.
Well, and you know what? Sadly, if you look at what happened with Adriano Espaillat, who was a supporter of Israel, he's going to be out of office soon. So I'm not sure who's running out who. Vito Fossella.
It was a sea change, and in a very bad way. I think they're either ignorant or they hate the whole concept of the state of Israel, or a combination of both.
You know what? We need more Governor Pattersons.
We definitely do need more David Pattersons in office, and where the danger is these things have consequences. Our most reliable ally in the Middle East for decades has been Israel. The amount of anti-Semitism that's growing here locally and across the world is horrible. And rather than try to confront that and combat that and prevent it, they're going in a totally different direction that will only undermine ultimately our national security because of our reliability, the relationship we have maintained with Israel while everybody else has been gunning for us for decades.
What do you think, Judge Weinberg? I mean, it is shocking. And again, to see one of the things I found really stunning, and they were talking again about this vote, that they did the same vote 2 years ago, and 37 Democrats at that point voted against, voted to block support to Israel for military aid. Yesterday was 103. So they're saying, look at what we've done in 2 years.
The only democracy in the Middle East is Israel. The only truly reliable ally of the United States is Israel. Israel gives the United States technology, medical advancements,
security sharing,
intelligence.
Yep.
They're the front line of the fight to protect Western civilization is against the Islamist hordes who want to dominate the world and execute anybody that doesn't go along with their religious and political beliefs. So if Israel is gone, who's going to protect the United States in that area of the world?
Yeah, it's a dangerous, when you see that, and then you see the DSA platform that came out with the abolish prisons, the abolish the presidency,
the Senate,
right?
Abolish the presidency. I mean,
Department of War, right?
Now, look. Fundamentally, this is an attack on our constitutional republic.
It is. So, Governor Patterson, where does it go from here? Because again, we need more courageous Democrats like you.
Well, I think that there certainly was almost a unanimous opinion in the meeting that we had today that we can't just, have meetings behind closed doors and tell each other secrets. We've got to get out here and be part of the leadership, because this is the same kind of antagonism that existed in the late 60s. And we don't need that at this point in history. And we don't need the people who are fomenting this type of anger about issues that they themselves don't even really understand. And I just think about my Jewish friends, and particularly my good friend Judge Weinberg, and the times that people who are in that faith have been frightened to death by some of the things that have been said. But then you realize the people who are saying them, if they get the opportunity, they would actually destroy the whole country if they could get in there.
Yep.
Yeah, and that's the frightening thing, the vitriol. Like, by the way, I saw an interesting moment, John, and I thought this was frightening. It was it looked like, I guess, a far left podcast. Ro Khanna, who's been very much a progressive and someone who was backing Graham Plattner and all those guys. A podcaster was saying, will you agree that essentially October 7th was a good thing? I mean, what a horrible thing to say. And he didn't want to say it. And then they went off on him. So, I mean, this is frightening. Like, he's not far left enough for them.
This is a dangerous, dangerous crowd. There's an old adage about if you want to repeal a bad law, enforce it, right? Because you get to see the implications in the real life. And in a way, that's what they're practicing in La La Land, is they're saying all these things. Some of them really believe it. But to the judge's point, the governor's point, if you play this out, you're going to see no more Israel, You're going to see anti-Semitism continue to grow and to rage. And it's going to be a bad thing for the United States of America. And I hope people just wake up to it and realize what they're trying to do, this agenda, and they're proud of it, is really bad for the country and people who love freedom, not just here, but around the world.
So, Governor Patterson, where does it go? Like you said, okay, hopefully they'll come out. I'm not going to ask you to reveal names or anything, but are the folks that are engaged, do they think that they can get a great groundswell? We're praying. I think not just Democratic Party in general, Americans, everybody who cares about America should be praying for this success.
Well, we did have Senator Richard Blumenthal from Connecticut on the call, and he talked about that kind of thing. And but what really, in a situation like this, and I went to the New York State Senate in 1985. At the time, there were 38 Republicans and 23 Democrats. By the time I left in 2006 and then became lieutenant governor and then became governor, we took the majority away from them. But we didn't do it by yelling and interfering with people when they were trying to speak and these just childish things that if it was junior high school, all the legislators would get suspended for some of the things that they did. But I think what we really want to do is to appeal to the positive feelings in others who want to be part of this and don't want to have to listen to this antagonistic conduct every night on the news.
Yeah, no, it makes a lot of sense. John, I understand we have right now calling in the great former Speaker of the House, Newt Gingrich.
Well, from Switzerland. I'll take that one. Thursday night, President Trump has a big speech tonight. So what the heck is going on? Who better to ask for than the Speaker, the former Speaker, but I'm never going to say former, Speaker of the House, Newt Gingrich. Well, Newt, what do you think he's going to say tonight?
Well, I'll tell you what I hope he's going to say. He has a big winning issue, John, on this question of who's allowed to vote. At America's New Majority Project, which you've been helpful with, we did a poll recently. 79% of the country wants to require proof of citizenship before you can vote. 77% would require a government-issued photo ID. Now, that doesn't mean there's that many on the other side, but it's something like 79 to 15 and 77 to 15. So what that says to me is the American people have figured out that having the same requirement you have to get on an airplane at TSA, the same requirement you have to do a whole range of things where you show your driver's license, there's nothing wrong with saying we want to know for sure that every American is voting, is an American, and that, by the way, they're registered. And you look at places like California where somehow magically they have long counts. I mean, there are lots of countries around the world that have an election in one day. You know, you go in and vote in the morning, and by 10 o'clock that night, you know who won. In California, it is weeks and weeks. And by the way, it turns out, in every case I know of, that the Republican gradually slides and the Democrat gradually gains. And I think people instinctively understand this. So from my perspective, what I'm seeing happening is that the country is coming together. Now, the Democrats are bitterly opposed to this. It's a fascinating question why they are so opposed to having only Americans vote in the American election, but they are. But they also know they can't oppose it head on. They can't go home and say, oh, yes, I'd really like to let anybody who shows up vote, even if they're illegal, even if they don't live here, even if they're just a tourist passing through. They can't say that. So my prediction is Trump is going to outline some stuff tonight. The reports are that the Justice Department has found a pretty good bit of proof about bad things in voting in America in 2020, and that he's going to release that tonight, and he's going to use that to call for the Congress to pass the act which would make sure that only American citizens voted and that you had a photo ID to vote. And the left can't take him head on. So what they're hoping is to make an argument about his allegations, sidestep the whole policy issue, and instead talk about whether or not when Trump said X about Fulton County, Georgia, or Y about Pennsylvania, whether that was an exaggeration, and try to avoid ever getting into the substance. But Trump's opportunity here is to make it very direct and very plain. And I actually think that a series of citizen rallies in favor of Americans being allowed to vote, but people who are not legally here not being allowed to vote, I think those rallies would attract a very substantial number of people.
I understand that, and I think we have to keep it simple. The other thing is, and what I've said to him in the past is the pregnant women that are coming in from out of state, that if they're coming in pregnant, yes, we'll allow them in, but if they have to leave before they give birth and they decide to stay, then then they made the decision to stay. Maybe at that point the child is not an American citizen because
I think what you're going to see, and I'm pretty sure this is constitutionally legal. I think you're going to see a bill that says you cannot get a visa to come to the U.S. if you're pregnant, precisely because the courts put us in a position. None of the founding fathers. And 80 years later, none of the members who passed the 14th Amendment after the Civil War, none of them imagined a world where you could have thousands of Chinese get on airplanes and fly to Guam to be technically on American soil for 3 days to have their child born. So from here on out, their child is an American citizen, not going to live in the U.S., not going to learn English, not going to be part of our constitutional process, but technically, legally, an American citizen. And I think that when people realize the scale of this and how big it has become, I think that you are going to have, Peter Schweitzer just did a book on this, and Schweitzer, who's a great investigative reporter, says that the number of systems that have now been set up specifically to help pregnant women get to the U.S. long enough to have a baby so the baby can technically be a citizen is grown very rapidly. And you're probably going to have 250,000 or 500,000 people who were born in the USA but never lived here for a single day after they were born.
Newt Gingrich, Thursday night, we'll find out in a few hours what he has to say. And I pray for our country and I pray for America. And thank you for everything you've done and continue to do. And let's talk again. There's so many other things to talk about. We'll talk again on Sunday. Thank you so much.
That'd be great. Look forward to it.
Wow, I can't wait to see what he says on Sunday. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. That was really great.
I mean, it's, what is it, 1 o'clock in the morning there? Or?
He loves the show. He wakes up and says, I'm calling into Cats and Cosby. That's a diehard, don't you think, Vito Fossella?
Agree, but I'm not surprised. Newt is always on top of his game, and he's always presents one of the best communicators, whether you like him or not, with his politics. He's been one of the best communicators in the last 40 years of laying out the issues in a very persuasive way, in my opinion.
And talking about great communicators, we got Professor Alan Dershowitz on.
Yep, and
you start this one.
Yeah, actually, he's going to be calling in right after the break.
Oh, okay.
So I can't wait to talk with him. You're right. Speaking of great communicators, right?
Yeah.
A common sense recap of the day's biggest stories. It's John Catsimatidis and Rita Cosby. Cats and Cosby on 77 WABC.
And we are back here on Cats and Cosby. We were talking earlier about how horrible it is that over 100 members of the Democratic Party said they do not want military aid to Israel. That's shocking. Of course, luckily the bill didn't pass, so they will continue to get aid, but not because of the Democratic Party. Joining us now to talk about this and so much more is Professor Alan Dershowitz. Professor, what a sad testament, I think, to Democratic Party and this trend that we're seeing within it.
And Nancy Pelosi voted for it. What does she think she's doing? Does she realize that America doesn't give aid to Israel? What America does is it sends money. Israel then has to buy American products. It has to employ American workers in America to help Israel and America jointly build the Iron Dome that protects America. On the other hand, it gives more money combined to Arab countries, Egypt and Jordan, who give nothing back whatsoever. And nobody is calling for a cutting of aid to Jordan or Egypt, but to Israel. It's pure, unadulterated anti-Semitism, and Nancy Pelosi is part of it. You know, the usual suspects, of course, voted against Israel. We know them, the Squad, and all those bigots in the Senate, in the House, rather. But to have Nancy Pelosi join them in that, she was the former Speaker of the House. She will have forever to have to live with that vote. That vote was going to cost lives. If Israel had to stop making the Iron Dome is not a weapon of offense. It's a weapon of defense. It's only there to protect children who live in Tel Aviv, children who live in Haifa, Christians, Jews, Muslims alike. And yet a bigot, that's what I'm calling her, Nancy Pelosi, is a bigot who votes against aid to Israel only because it's the nation state of the Jewish people, and because she now realizes that in San Francisco, Israel isn't popular because other bigots in San Francisco are now coming out against Israel. We're seeing an increase in bigotry. You know, recently my wife and I watched the great Ken Burns film, America and the Holocaust, and you realize what was going on in Germany in the 30s, the 32 and 33. You hear it in the United States today at American universities in cities like the blue cities like San Francisco and New York City and Washington, D.C. and other places where they are turning against the Jews. And the only reason they're anti-Israel is because it's the nation state of the Jewish people. If it weren't a Jewish state, none of these people would give a damn about the Palestinians.
Vito Fossella.
Professor, I'm blessed. Some of my best friends in life are Jewish. They are great, successful individuals. They're great fathers. They're great husbands. They're just great people. And they have spoken more and more recently about their concern and fear of the future and what's happening. And I'm curious, as Rita mentioned a little while ago, about 60 more Democrats voted for this aid or the declination of aid. What do you think is really happening other than bigotry and whatever else? Is there something more dynamic at play?
Well, Israel has become the pariah state. I think, look, Spain today said Israel is a criminal regime that engages in apartheid. That's why I'm rooting for Argentina on Sunday.
By the way, now I'm doubling down on Argentina after that one.
Go Messi.
Yes.
Yeah. But, it's just spreading. It's spreading. It's like a virus, and it's spreading at universities. Professors are teaching it. It's just horrible. It's what went on in Germany in 1932 and 1933, and our job is to make sure that doesn't happen it doesn't turn into 1939. That's why I wrote a book that'll be out soon called Why I Left the Democratic Party and So Should You. And I'm hoping that more and more sensible people will say, we can't be in Nancy Pelosi's party. You saw that today, the great senator from Pennsylvania said that he's still a Democrat, but he's not going to remain a Democrat if the Democratic Party becomes the party that's opposed to Israel and the Jewish people. He's going to quit. That's Fetterman. He's a man of great principle.
Yeah, sadly, he's one of the lone voices there, though. That's you know what I was really troubled by yesterday, and Professor Dershowitz, you brought up Pelosi. I also thought of, Hakeem Jeffries. Hakeem Jeffries said, I'm going to support Israel, the funding here, so that was good. But the negative thing was he put a statement out saying, but I'm not going to put any pressure on anybody else. And you know darn well when it's something that they really care about, they do what's called whip the votes. And I'm looking at Vito because he knows all too well. You whip the votes and they all vote as one big block. In other words, he gave the clear go-ahead. You can vote against this and against, for Israel, totally opposite of them. Don't worry about it. There won't be any repercussions. I have to vote this way. And I thought, have a spine.
Yeah, no. He is testicularly challenged, and so are some of the other Democrats. And, Schumer did the same thing when it came to the Iran vote some years ago. He voted the right way, but he understood people voting the other way. They have no guts. And you have to stand up for principle. And standing up for Israel against Iran is absolutely imperative. The major editorial writer for the New York Times, Tom Friedman, recently in an op-ed said, I don't know who I'm rooting for, Iran or America. He says he's not sure because he doesn't want to give Trump a victory. He doesn't want to give Netanyahu a victory. It's as if he's, Argentina versus Spain. It's not rooting. You're an American. You support American values. You want America to win the war against what is currently the variation of the 1933 Nazi regime, namely the Iranian mullahs. They have the same goal the Nazis had, to take over the Middle East first, then to take over the world, to destroy as many Jews as they can. And, we're seeing that today, and you have to stand up for principle. That's why I'm so proud of my decision. Alone in my family, no other member of my family has done this, left the Democratic Party. I'm the first Dershowitz, probably in the history of our family since we came here in 1889, ever to vote to be a Republican, and I'm so proud of that.
Wow. So it's called Why I Left the Democratic Party, and So Should You. I can't wait to see that book.
Yeah.
It's Judge Weinberg.
So, Alan, yesterday there was another vote. They wanted to move the defense authorization bill in the Senate, and they need authorization to start the discussion and the debate. And Schumer led every Democrat who was there in attendance against moving it forward. So they're voting against our own national defense and our own national security. They're putting us in jeopardy at a time of war. Your thoughts?
Well, there's no question today the Democrats are putting their goal of winning the midterm elections before the interests of the United States. And I think, it's not only Tom Friedman. I think there are a lot of Democrats in the Senate and in the House that are actually rooting for Iran and rooting against the United States in the hope that an American defeat will help the Republicans lose the midterm elections and help Trump lose the midterm elections. They are putting partisanship before national interest.
Vote for the terrorists and so to
punish Trump.
To punish Trump.
Yeah. That's what they're doing. And we have to stop it. And look, we who love New York, we have a mayor who should be the mayor of Tehran. He shouldn't be the mayor of New York City, but because some idiot Jews voted for him, he's the mayor. Thank God for Italian Americans, Greek Americans, Irish Americans, who for the most part voted for common sense and voted against Mamdani. But too many Jews and too many, rich college-educated trust fund kids voted for Mamdani, and that's the way he got elected, with barely 50% of the vote running against two candidates. But he got 50%, so he's the mayor, unfortunately. So now he goes to Rikers Island to watch the World Cup,
with many criminals.
That's his New York. Sits next to a man who strangled his wife, and that's the New York he wants. He wants a socialist New York where criminals are pandered and where the ordinary citizen is encouraged essentially to move out, which is what's happening in large numbers. I'm not leaving New York. I mean, I live in Florida, but I spend time in New York. I love New York. I love the opera. I love concerts. I love Central Park. I don't love Mamdani.
Before we let you go, Professor Dershowitz, I heard a chilling statement from AOC today, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, who said that whoever runs for president next, we can't look back, was her phrase. We have to look forward when it comes to Israel. In other words, and she voted to not send military aid. So she sounds like she's making it sound like she's drawing a line in the sand. That's troubling.
Well, as you know, the Democratic Socialists of America will not allow you to become a Democratic Socialist unless you're willing to state that you think Israel shouldn't exist. That's a litmus test for the Democratic Socialists of America. Israel, which started as a socialist state, was the only socialist state in the Middle East. They were fighting against, fascist dictators. It's still the only democracy in the Middle East. But, AOC is on the side of the fascists in the Middle East, side of the monarchs, but not on the side of a democracy, because the socialists have told her you can't be a socialist if you support Israel, which is a disgraceful thing.
It is. It's shocking to hear that. Here it is, 2026. Really, really shocking. Mm-hmm. Well, Professor Dershowitz, we love you. We're fighting alongside you, and we always love your voice here. It's needed more than ever.
We need each other. We have to fight together because we're on the right side.
Well, we're side by side every day with you. So.
Right. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Professor, very much.
And, well, I mean, it's my own company.
All right. Well, it's the hot
have
news.
Somebody else do it.
All right. Well, here it is. I'll pretend I'm tossing to myself. So now let's go to the hot news, everybody. Sponsored by the great Gristedes Supermarkets, which are the best.
We'll take it.
It's the top news of the day. Sponsored by Gristedes Supermarkets. Here's Rita Cosby.
And here are some of the big headlines sponsored by the great Gristedes Supermarkets, you guys. The White House says that President Trump is going to deliver a major address to the nation tonight. John Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt said that he will be discussing Iran economy and also protecting the integrity of American elections during the 9 p.m. Eastern time speech from the White House. We'll see what he has to say. Also, this is scary. Police are investigating after an intruder entered NBC's Today Show studio today. TMZ reports that the man asked for host Al Roker before lunging at one of the hosts, Craig Melvin, and yelling a racial slur. Security detained the man, but it remains unclear how he even accessed the restricted area or whether charges will be filed. And also, we can smell it in the air. The wildfires, smoke from the wildfires in Canada and Minnesota. Well, it's creating air quality problems across large parts of the United States, including in the tri-state area. The smoke is expected to spread from the Midwest into parts of the East Coast through Friday before conditions begin improving in northern areas. And those are the big headlines. And John, when we come back, we're going to talk to Brigadier General Blaine Holt. He always has some good inside scoop.
He always has some good intelligence.
Let's catch him right after the break.
You're commuting home with Katz and Cosby. Now, here's John Catsimatidis and Rita Cosby on 77 WABC.
Well, we are back, and we have General Holt with us, and he's one good guy, one smart guy, and he's always got his ears to the ground, and he knows what's going on. General Holt, what are we going to tell our listeners today?
Well, what we need to tell them is that we're doing very well in the Middle East. Time is on our side. There's a revolution in the offing, and you've got a desperate three-headed monster now called what used to be the regime of Iran. IRGC is getting slammed hard. The Straits of Hormuz won't ever be truly risk-free, but they will be available. We've seen 41 ships, by my last count, go through in the last 24 hours. And so things are looking good, but the Iranian people will never have a better chance to reclaim their freedom. We're not going to do that for them, but we'll certainly provide American air power, which is really quite something.
I mean, the Iranian people have to revolt. I mean, give them what they need, give them the munitions they need, give them the guns they need, and, let them take back their country. I mean, it's not our job for them to take back their country. It's their job.
It is absolutely their job, and we saw what happened in Iraq and Afghanistan when we put 130,000 of ours, and we try to get them out of the 9th century and get them into the 10th century. And here's the big thing is the Iranian people mostly taking back their own country by themselves and establishing their own governance. well, then they'll appreciate that more. When your blood is the one that's spilling, then you appreciate it more. And but they will need some air power help. We're gonna help them with that. And you know what? They're going to become a great friend to the United States. That's my prediction.
Well, Japan is our best friend, and you look what happened in World War II.
Exactly.
Germany is
Exactly
supposed to be our best friend. Look what happened in World War II. Italy, they didn't know what side they were on.
I will tell you, the Germans, the Italians, and the Japanese, and I'm talking about peoples, not governments, they love us. They just do. And the French, they adore us. But you have to separate these globalist governments, these neo-Marxists in many cases.
The so-called intellectuals, they think they're smarter than us.
Yes, the elites, let's call them that.
Yeah.
The elites. Self-licking ice cream cones is my favorite term. And but it's the people, they love us. Every Memorial Day speech I ever made in Europe, French, Belgian, Italians, they would always come up to me and say, we just can't thank you enough. We just can't tell you what the United States means to us.
Beautiful. Blaine, on Iran, I'm curious your thoughts. One of the things we've talked a lot about here on the show, John and I, we've talked about going after the IRGC. I saw one of the targets in the last 24 hours, you'll be happy to hear, John, was the Army barracks of the IRGC. And then I heard Trump say, we're going to treat the IRGC like ISIS. And there weren't that many ISIS folks left by the time he made that statement because he obliterated them all. So what do you think he's going to really do to really hone down? He's clearly honing down on the IRGC, the Iranian Revolutionary Guard Corps, which are the diehard lunatics, but the military kind of monsters, if you will.
Yeah, this is your Armageddon psychopath division. They're not Kool-Aid drinkers. They're Kool-Aid mixers. And the only way for them to leave is via martyrdom. And so the president is going to make good on that. The IRGC headquarters 2 nights ago went up in flames. It's a very visible thing. It was a skyscraper in Tehran.
What a shame.
The Army barracks, the Army barracks that you talked about. Now, here's my caveat. We just got to see something, say something mode here. They did threaten our infrastructure here. That could be a credible threat because they do have cells here from the 4 years of open borders. Now, I will say that Department of Homeland Security, our National Guards, first responders, they are all sharing intelligence about all those things. But we need to harden up here and understand there may be a period of some required resilience as we get this deal closed out.
Yeah, I think it's going to be bumpy, sadly, for the next few weeks when you're dealing with evil, fighting evil.
Right.
Vito.
So speaking of evil, any government that has to slaughter tens of thousands of its own people when they speak to rise up against the oppression and put that on the same moral plane as, say, the state of Israel, you're looking at insanity when you start looking through that prism. And that's sort of what the other side is trying to do and frame it. As mentioned earlier, there are those who are actually rooting for Iran to win, which is, I can't remember a day in time where that was allowed or appropriate or being pro-American. So what do you think is really happening from a new day perspective to take the fight to the leaders of Iran once and for all? Again, the people themselves in whatever country you visit, Italy, Germany, they love the country, you get along fine. But what do we need to do, in your opinion, to take out the leadership once and for all?
Well, I think we're on the right track. What we're doing is, this is what the president doesn't want to do, and this is why it gets so frustrating for Americans, is if we wanted to amp it up like we did in shock and awe in Iraq and have 2,000 combat sorties per night and a steady diet of cruise missiles all day, every day, we could do that. But what the president doesn't want to do is hijack a revolution. And it just takes more patience and time. But the civilian leaders are at the throats of the IRGC, who's at the throats of the regular army called the Artesh, and whatever's left of the Ayatollahs, Mojtaba and the three boys. They're in tatters trying to wage this propaganda worldwide that they're still very much a viable leadership, and they're not, and everybody knows it. And so patience, let's remember this thing only started in February. And oil futures, Scott Bessent and the president have done a masterful job on managing that. And so they had 47 years to wage this evil. It just takes a little time, but evil's coming off the table. And then what we need to do, in my view, and this is only my opinion, We need to go investigate the foreign intelligence services that put the Ayatollah in power in the first place.
That's an interesting thing. You know, before we let you go, you brought up about sleeper cells here. How concerned should we be? I mean, obviously, in a wide open border, anybody could have gotten through under Biden, but how concerned should we be now?
So there's some things working against the sleeper cells that are viable. You have to wonder how many of them are true believers. If they see that the IRGC is in the ninth inning and that no money is coming from home and there's really no country for them once they do something, are they really believers, or are they going to try to ride it out here in the United States, or are they going to try to become informants and say, I know about this, I know about that? So it's never a clean setup for sleeper cells to be all the more effective. But then here's the caveat. It only takes one. It only takes one. And our first responders have to be perfect every single time. And so as Americans, we need to come together. We need to share information. We need to be resilient at home. And we just can't be naive to the realities of the threat picture we see this summer.
Well, Blaine, you're the General Holt. You're the only guy I know. You're the only person I know in Idaho. I don't know anybody else in Idaho. What is the population of Idaho?
I think we're about 2 million, 3 million strong up in northern Idaho.
At least downtown Manhattan.
Yeah. We've got plenty of room. But, you know, we need some diversity. And so we've got a lot of California that's come here to stay. Maybe some folks from New York would be good.
Yeah, I bet there are New Yorkers. If you look at the traffic today, I think I might join you.
We have plenty. We have plenty. But hey, I'm breathing fire smoke just like you guys do.
Oh my God.
Washington is on fire.
Oh, I know.
Thank you so much for coming on. Thank you for what you do, and we'll talk to you again real soon.
God bless all.
Thank you.
Thank you. And John, I understand we have calling in Senator Roger Marshall from the great state of Kansas.
Oh, I'll take this one.
Well, Thursday night, let's go to Kansas. And with us today is Senator Marshall from the great state of Kansas. And Senator, tonight the president has a big speech. Nobody really knows what he's going to say at the end. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, John, always great to be with you. I think the president's going to talk about the importance of election integrity and how important it is that people show an ID when they vote, that they show proof of citizenship when they register. And then he's going to mention something about mail-in ballots as well. But election integrity is the backbone of every republic. I know that the House of Representatives is working on something through reconciliation that'll nip on the edges of it. But I bet he's going to put Democrats on the record. Why won't 10 Democrats vote in favor of voter ID? I really think he'll touch on Iran, but I really think this is about the importance of election integrity.
Now, election integrity is so important for November. And, what happened the last few days in the Congress, 100 congressmen voted against giving money to Israel. And then in the Senate, you guys voted, you couldn't come to a resolution about talking about the Defense Act. What does that mean?
Right. Horribly disappointing. The NDA, the National Defense Authorization Act, it's done every year on a bipartisan basis. Democrats, Republicans work together on this hand in glove again this year, but Chuck Schumer will not allow Democrats to support this. This is how the military gets funding every year. This is where it all starts in this authorization process. It had a raise for the troops is something I really like in there as well. But I think this is the first time ever that the Democrats have.
I think it's been 70 years since that happened.
Yeah, it certainly in my, so we'll say in my lifetime, it's not happened yet. So it's disappointing. And, we talk about the Republican Party is the party of prosperity and security. This is the security part of that. We want secure borders. We want peace through strength. We want a strong military. We want your families to be safe. And it all starts with this particular bill. But the Democrats are in this mode. This is the first step as they get ready for September 30th to shut down the government.
And, I don't understand why the Democrats were against stopping all the drug boats from coming in. Have you ever understood that philosophy on that?
No, well, they hate Trump. That's all it amounts to, John. They hate Donald Trump so much they would be happy to see us in a economic recession and some type of a world war. They would gladly have Americans suffer if it would mean giving them the chance to impeach Donald Trump, and that's what this election's about. So they're going to, if they can just somehow, get back the majority in the House of Representatives, regardless of what happens in the Senate, they could have one impeachment trial after the other. So if it doesn't make sense to you and me, if it's not logical, right, then it has to be politics. So this is about politics.
At the end of the day, if they can't vote for the war, how are we going to get them to vote for the Voting Act? Because the only thing that's keeping the Democrats in office is by, for instance, I've heard of counties with 500,000 people in the county, and they send out 1 million ballots.
Yeah, well, the significant thing I would say is Americans don't have confidence in election integrity. And if you don't have confidence in that, you feel like your votes could be canceled by an illegal immigrant or a person that died 3 years ago. When they send out unsolicited ballots, they lose what I call a chain of custody, something that's just as important as evidence in a trial. So I think that's everyone's concern. And, flipping it the other way, 90% of Americans think voter ID is a good idea. So we need to hang the Democrats with this issue. We need to get them on the record. I'm asking our Senate leadership to bring just a bill that all it says is requires voter ID. Get them on record. The fact that we can't get 10 or 15 Democrats on record voting in favor of voter ID, I think says everything that America needs to know.
I agree with you 110%. And every American that loves America has to come out and vote because they have to realize what's going on the Democratic side. The Socialist Party is taking over the Democratic Party, and there's nobody that stands up and says enough is enough, and we're not going to allow that.
Yeah, well, the way to stand up and say enough is enough is to exercise your constitutional duty to get out and vote. And by the way, any of those Democrat socialists that have won their primaries in New York, we'd love to have them out in Kansas to campaign for my opponent. I think when Kansas can't even believe this. I mean, even my Democrat friends in Kansas cannot believe it's just not socialism. Socialism is the mainstream of the Democrat Party right now. Socialism means grow a big government, raise your taxes. There's a government program for everything. But these folks are beyond that. They want to burn the place to the ground. They want open borders, no immigration laws. They want non-citizens voting in elections. They're trying to burn the republic down, and that's exactly why we got to get out and vote in November to keep this republic.
Senator Roger Marshall from the great state of Kansas, thank you for coming on this Thursday evening, and we're going to catch up with you again real soon.
Thanks, John. I enjoyed it.
Wow, very interesting. Back to New York. And in fact, let's go to Albany. Let's go to George Borrello.
Chautauqua County.
Yes, Chautauqua, with great county, right?
Great county.
Very good county. New York State Senator George Borrello. George, let's start first off with everybody's talking about this across the country. Kathy Hochul becoming the first governor. She is actually it's a 1-year moratorium on these big data centers. And it deals with essentially environmental green energy. She's saying, they have to be under X amount of megawatts. It uses up too much energy. And people are saying this is fighting progress. This is fighting technology.
It reminds me of the day where you had to, the shower, you couldn't have it at full speed. You had to buy a shower that only gives you half the water.
And that kind of stove, remember?
Like we're running out of water.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
Give me a break.
This is crazy. So why is she doing this, George?
Well, John's exactly right. It's the same thing. Those are the low-flow shower heads. We've got low-flow energy here in New York State thanks to her ridiculous energy policy. That's the real problem here. This is an admission by Kathy Hochul that she has failed New Yorkers with our energy policy. Every month when you open up your utility bills, you see them going up, up, and up. That's because we have too much demand and not enough supply. So she's making herself sound like she's pumping the brakes, but really this is a political move on her part. And most importantly, the legislature passed a moratorium on data centers on the last day of session in June. She did not sign that bill. Why? Because she does not want her hands handcuffed. She is going to pick and choose which data centers she will allow. It's going to be the political. That's the thing. The political favoritism. This is an executive order. By a stroke of a pen, she can change that executive order. She can make exceptions. She can do whatever she wants. So for all the No Kings crowd listening, this is Queen Hochul, Queen Kathy, determining where and when data centers will be used.
Vito Fossella.
Senator, I'm just curious. This sounds reminiscent of the fracking issue where you can go to Pennsylvania and the economy is booming as a result of it, and there was a prohibition in New York. It's not as if these data centers are going to go away. Perhaps the political winds are going in direction, but they're needed. Other countries like China are going to flourish with this. So is this really good from an economic point of view?
It's absolutely horrible from an economic point of view. And what she's done is she's taken away local control. These data centers were going to be a local decision based on community by community, whether or not they wanted it, and if the benefits they were offering were going to be good enough. And now she's going to control where they go and what size they are. But to your point, Senator John Fetterman said it best. 2 words: China wins. That was his tweet when he saw what Kathy Hochul did, because this is all about China. They're the ones behind the negative propaganda with data centers. They're the ones that are spreading the lies because they want to defeat the United States when it comes to being the dominant AI power in the world. So there's no doubt in my mind that she has become a useful idiot once again for the enemies of the United States, like China. But let me add to that. New York State right now has very few data centers, but roughly around 130. Now, compare that to Virginia. Just Northern Virginia has 550 data centers.
Wow.
550. And their electricity prices in Virginia are half of New York. So this whole idea that somehow data centers are going to increase our electricity prices is it's fantasy. In fact, most of these data centers bring their own power generation, but that's the problem. They can't do that in a state where we won't allow people to use things like natural gas to power these data centers. So this is just, again, an admission that the Democrats' energy policy under Kathy Hochul has been an abject failure. That's what this moratorium is really all about.
Governor Patterson.
Senator, after the moratorium expires, which would be a year from now, what is supposed to happen after that?
Well, we're not going to have more power in New York State. We're not going to have the additional 11 gigawatts that we need. Hell, we just got done telling people to turn off their air conditioning and unplug their electronics because we don't have enough power for their needs right now. So is that going to change a year from now? Well, we all know that's not the case. But let me also say this, Governor. This is really a moratorium that says 1 year, but the details of her executive order says that it's until the PSC determines. Well, that could be never. This could be a forever moratorium. And like I said, she will pick and choose and change that executive order. As you know, Governor, at the stroke of a pen, she can change it, doesn't need anyone's permission, and allow the ones that are going to favor her politically. This is a blatant political move on her part.
Judge Weinberg.
So, Senator, what do you think about these homeless encampments and the failure of the Mandami administration and this governor to do something about it?
You mean the ones with electricity?
That's right. They have electricity. How come we don't?
Well, look, it's shameful. First of all, anyone homeless in New York State or anywhere in the United States is likely homeless because they have severe mental health and addiction issues. And letting people suffer without treatment and without support and having their lives end prematurely, which often happens, is not compassion. Mamdani is again proving once again that he is unfit to lead the largest city in America, and it's going to actually increase violence. It's going to increase violence against these people that are homeless, and it's going to reduce the quality of life in New York City in particular. So, this is a failure. This is this is progressive propaganda over being a good leader, and these homeless encampments will continue to grow. And look, only have to look at the West Coast. Look at Portland. Look at Seattle. See how they have become such a cancer on their societies out there. When you have major corporations and small businesses alike shutting down because they can no longer stand, these homeless encampments that have become dangerous and in many cases deadly. That's coming to New York City if someone doesn't turn this around.
Senator, you're a great speaker. It must be the atmosphere and up in Chautauqua County. Tell me about the Canadian fires coming over.
Well, let me tell you something. You can see this is another example of you're literally seeing progressive policy hanging in the air, and it stinks. Right now where I am, there's nothing but a strange orange haze and the smell of burning wood right now. Because in Canada, this is not climate change, folks. Let's clear that up right now. In Canada, they have very bad radical environmental policies that means that they don't have good forest management. They don't have good conservation efforts. And that's why you have these forest fires that burn out of control, because they've once again let the radical environmentalists set the policy. This is what all these wildfire situations end up being. When they can't control them, it's because you've created a situation where you have all of this dead wood, all these dead trees, because we don't want to clear them out because it's going to impact wildlife and so forth, and you end up with massive amounts of kindling that create these wildfires. This is an example that we are seeing and smelling here in upstate New York and throughout New York State of progressive environmental policy and its impact on proper forest management.
Wow. Well, that puts it all into perspective when we go outside and smell it, which we all do today. Boy, Senator George Borrello, thank you so much. We love having you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Same here. Thank you.
And you guys, when we come back, we're going to talk to Scott Monroe with the NYPD Detectives Endowment Association. Big stuff that they're doing.
You're commuting home with Cats and Cosby. Now, here's John Catsimatidis and Rita Cosby on 77 WABC. Breaking news, WABC.
Oh, boy. So, breaking news, guys. This just in. NBC Network and ABC Network, these are the TV networks, will not air President Trump's primetime address live tonight. They are saying that maybe on some of their sister networks like MS Now. But, of course, the White House asked for all networks to cover his address at 9 o'clock. And this is terrible, I think, that NBC News and ABC News right now are saying they will not cover the address. What do you think about this, Judge? This is terrible. I'm sorry, whether you agree with it or not, you should cover it. It's the President of the United States.
They have constitutional protection under the First Amendment to make sure that the people hear the voices of our leaders and of great public policy debates. So what they're doing is they're wrapping themselves in the First Amendment to say no, but their obligation is to get the messages out and let the people decide the truth.
Yeah, and then have people afterwards saying, "Hey, what do you think of the speech?" I don't remember, Vito, them ever saying, "We're not going to cover Barack Obama's speech." Do you remember that, or Joe Biden's speech?
No, and I think here we are. We're at a very serious military conflict. This is a serious situation in the Middle East with Iran. It's not as if President Trump gets up there every other week and wants to give a televised speech to the nation. I think these are the times where you err on the side of just full transparency. Let the American people decide where we're going, and then I'm going to defer to Governor Patterson.
Rita, did they state a reason why they're doing this?
I'm not seeing the reason at this point. I do know that AOC, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, was calling on all networks not to cover it because she said if it's about election integrity, she thinks it's lies. And I don't know if they took a cue from her. But again, just now, NBC and ABC. That's terrible,
she's
John.
an executive producer of one of these programs.
I guess so.
AOC now.
No, bigger than that, she runs the networks.
Yeah, how terrible is that? That's terrible.
And no word from CBS one way or the other.
No word yet from CBS one way or the other. And again, you know what it reminds me of?
There's new people running CBS.
Yeah, it's new people running. That's a good point. That's a good point.
CBS is running CNN.
So we're going to keep an eye out, John, to see who covers it tonight.
I look at, I got 5 screens at home at night. At 1 o'clock in the morning, I'm watching 5 screens.
All right. So will you tell us what all 5 are watching?
I watch the BBC.
And we have a whole bunch here. I'll be here, so I'll watch it.
I watch BBC, CNN, and Fox News. There's no Fox Business at night. And I watch, who else?
And you're listening
to New York 1.
And then you have your ear on WABC radio.
And I have my Alexa on WABC.
All right. Well, you guys, before we go, let's go very quickly, if we could, to Scott Monroe. He is with the NYPD Detectives Endowment Association, the president of that great organization. And Scott, I know that there's going to be a renaming of the police academy after a great hero, Detective Stephen McDonald. Talk about this, because this is important.
So it was great. The renaming was today. It was a huge showing. The Commissioner, Jessica Tisch, decided to do this.
back a few months back, which I thought was great. And, Stephen McDonald, he was the icon. He is the face of the NYPD. When you hear the stories, they had a documentary done the other day. John, you were there.
I was there.
And when you see what this at that time, young gentleman, I mean, what he did for the NYPD and educating our people, educating the people of, say, PAL, the kids, and everybody else, this should have been done a long time ago. And you know what? Hats off to the commissioner of the NYPD for doing this.
What a beautiful tribute. And of course, he was shot, sadly, Detective McDonald, and paralyzed from the neck down back in 1986 by a teenager who was stealing a bike in Central Park. And to have the NYPD officially name the police academy after him, to me, just I think it's such an amazing tribute. Every generation's going to learn about a true living hero who lived among us and was just one of the great, great heroes. And I love that you guys are naming this. John, this is beautiful and really powerful, right?
It was a very powerful, very beautiful documentary. And where is it available for the average person to watch?
We're waiting to get it back. I don't think it's done yet, John. We're waiting for Mary Murphy to finish it off at Edward Mulvey. They did a beautiful job on this. I'm hoping in the near future. I know they were calling, they were asking, and I think I spoke to you about it and at the PAO. But I think they're looking to tweak it a little bit, nothing I understand.
I understand it should be a little bit shorter just to keep everybody's attention.
Yes, and I think it's great. And for them to call Mary Murphy and Erin Mulvey to call the next day and say to me, Scott, what do you think? And I said, I talked to John. I spoke to a couple other people. We got to keep it a little short. You did a beautiful job. And this guy is a real icon for the NYPD. What a beautiful person.
What an amazing person.
I wish we have people. We should have everybody like that here at the NYPD, and I think we do.
Yeah,
and I think we do.
And by the way, that documentary, I think it should also go, once it's done, go to schools too. Schools need to see it too as well.
Absolutely.
Stephen, Scott, thank you very much for honoring Stephen McDonald, Scott Monroe.
Yeah, we're on overtime. We have to break.
Yeah, Scott, thank you.
Thank you so much, Scott.
And we believe in Donald Trump, and everybody should be watching that tonight.
Well, we'll be watching at 9 o'clock. ABC Television and NBC Television have announced that they're going to, AOC is their boss. They're not going to listen.
That's amazing.
They're not going to put it on.
Scott, join us here at the end, because what do we all stand for?
Truth, justice, and the American way. God bless America.